Let's go down. That's the important one. Call the meeting to order. Make a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Okay, you join me in pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any adjustments to the agenda?
Just your votes from executive.
You need to vote on executive MRSA 4056C, which was the denial of the request.
That's 2025-3. And I move that we deny that.
And that was for a tax abatement.
That's right.
I'll second.
All in favor? And pursuant MRSA 4056F, Public Fund HA 2025-1, amount of $334.77.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? 4056F. HA 2025-2, $353.79.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? MRS 4056F, HA 2025-3 for $449.90.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? And 4056F for HA 2025-4 for $454.90.
Make that motion.
Second.
Favor? 4. So we have for that to vote on. Public hearings, I don't think we have any public hearings tonight. Presentations. The Honorable Mr. EMS Chief Derek Booker, ended your report.
So I can just click from here. That would mean I could see that far. Where's my next slide? Right there.
You want me to do it for you?
If you want to.
I can do it for you. Just tell me next. It's right down there in the corner.
Perfect. If you know where it is, that's fine. Yeah.
I haven't had that great.
Tell me when.
I'm ready when you are. So, thanks for having me tonight. I know it's kind of a year-end report, but I figured I would sort of go over the end of last year and then some trends from the previous years as well, sort of see where we're at. I have kind of renamed it to a state of the department report, so we kind of know what we're looking for moving forward and what we've had kind of behind us. So 2024, in terms of our call volume, we covered 1,857 calls for service. Emergency calls kind of lumps in everything between the 3 towns we cover primarily and also mutual aid. That also covers like Warren and Union for full crew responses. We did 411 interfacility transfers last year. So certainly more than 1 per day. Those are, in terms of revenue generating, sort of hefty. Paramedic intercepts, we did 135 of those. Typically, the large majority of them is to Warren. Occasionally we'll cover one in Union or Washington. So 135 of those. Again, about 100 exactly call increase from the previous year. Go ahead, Julie. Ready when you are. So it's kind of far away from me, but basically this is calls for service. Everything on this presentation short of budget stuff is calendar year. So this is a call volume trends chart starting in calendar year 24, which is our last year, working back to 2021. So as you can see, kind of a a steady increase in about, 50 to 100 calls per year. We had a little dip in 21 and obviously that was kind of post-COVID, that sort of thing. So the orange in the middle there, that's transfers. And then on the very bottom is the intercepts we talked about before. So anybody have any questions on any of these slides?
It's nice to see the transfers.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
for-
yes, transfers continue to kind of go up. Which is nice. We're able to, because we have a little further down the line in my the only way to cover transfers is to have staffing, and was given in terms of hiring staff, and then just, pay increases though kept our staff here and able to cover those transfers. Go ahead, Bob.
Paramedic intercepts, those are primarily pursuant to the mutual aid agreements that we have.
They are. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we get paid for those.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yep. And we're gonna increase those prices in the coming fiscal year.
Okay, so
Those transfers, they primarily, we always knew was miles and 10 days.
There's a later slide that will show exactly what's what. So no, but to answer your question early, they are primarily out of miles. I'll show you the slide.
And are we doing any calls out of Novo and
Uh,
Delta or
so we
CLC?
do mutual aid services for CLC. It typically Julie would call it a true mutual aid. We go over there probably a handful of times per year with them. So we call it a wash. Brian and I from CLC have an agreement where he doesn't charge me and I don't charge him because we go there very mutually in terms.
It's true mutual.
If something was to change, we have decided that if we plateaued a certain call, we would revisit that and we can build things individually if we have to, but they truly do come over here and back us up when we're in a bind. So
Jefferson is still covered by CLC in a certain region.
so they cover a third, 2/3. Yep.
What's CLC the acronym for?
The ambulance service. Sorry. Yep. So cover, 6, 7, 8, 9 towns over that way. And then they also have a third of Jefferson. We cover the remaining. So go ahead, Julie. So this is kind of an interesting slide. It's kind of hard to see. But basically what it covers is our staffing levels by license. And this all leads into our ability to cover more calls at a certain license level. So that red thing that kind of stands out to you guys, that's paramedics. We're up to over 15 paramedics regularly now. We staff at least 2 per 24 hours. And that really allows us to cover more calls, especially those paramedic intercepts, but even more importantly, those transfers. Because when we send a medic out of town, we have a medic back here to cover town. That used to be a big thing where we'd send our paramedic out. We may or may not have a paramedic back here. For a while there, we actually were so shorthanded that it didn't matter what license level it was, but we certainly wouldn't send our medic out of town when we only had, 1 paramedic and 2 living around town. So obviously there's EMTs and drivers. We have 3 what they call licensed ambulance operators who are technically just drivers. They don't have an EMS license per se. But continue to have people go through medic class. They're treating it like a career now and they're licensing up. So we are very healthy in the advanced level provider situation here in Waldoboro. So really, if the same chart was presented to you from different services even around us, ours, I believe, would stand out dramatically to you folks in terms of paramedic staffing. So go ahead, Julie.
Can I-
Words. Backwards, so.
Backwards again.
Well, I thought I had. So
So this is the full-time staffing trend. Goes back a couple of years. So basically in 2021, we had 3 full-time staff and just to cut right to the chase, 2024, support of the town, Julie, select board budget committee, we have 10 full-time staff now. And again, just continues to allow us to cover, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without a lot of, a lot less burnout than there once was, which is nice for the crews and we're just able to cover more stuff. So
Does that translate to the more,
transfers, oh, absolutely, 100%. 100%. Everything goes back to our ability to cover more calls, right? Full-time staff and house that we don't have to share our full-time staff, meaning they're committed to us. We are their priority. They're here 48 hours a week. It just allows us to just staff better and provide a better product to the community. So anybody have any questions on that before we move on?
Okay, 48 hours a
They
week,
work 48 hours a week,
48.
224?
224s. There's that slide I was talking about, John. That's interfacility transfers. The question comes up a lot when we discuss these Miles versus Penn Bay. You can see Miles is the bright red and then Penn Bay is the orange. You can just see how glaringly we are covering transfers out of Miles more. We take a lot of transfers from Penn Bay when they call us, but they use two services now to cover their transfers. One is Maine Health EMS and one is Northeast. So they're calling them first and they're calling us last. Typically, once 6 p.m. hits, we actually, unless somebody is critically urgently ill, we turn transfers down unless it's a patient from our coverage area, from Penn Bay. Because Miles is calling so frequently, and because we're covering the transfers from Miles, we're keeping those bigger for-profit ambulance services, including Maine Health's own ambulance service, out of there. We have had several, what I call third floor conversations with the administration at Miles saying, hey, we want the transfers. We don't want you guys to bring in those nonprofit services, or excuse me, those for-profit services, or even your own, in-house system. And the staff over there has been really good about, we want you guys in CLC to take our transfers. It's been working well for years. We want to keep it up. So that's why it stands out so glaringly on a chart like that, because we are just taking so many more transfers out of Miles. But that doesn't mean somebody who belongs in our coverage area is going to get straight in at Penn Bay if they need to go somewhere else. We will take them, no matter the time of day. So as long as we get the chance to say yes, we will do it.
Are these transfers primarily down in Portland?
Significantly more often than not, we're going to Maine Med. That's the highest volume. We certainly veer off to Lewiston. Occasionally someone goes to Central Maine, psych hospitals, Bangor, Spring Harbor, but the vast majority of them are Maine Med transfers. Yep.
And we had made, and I think Derek had made the decision at one point that our focus would be on Miles and that 6 p.m. because it's easier for our crew to take somebody from Miles
Going that way.
and then come back instead of having to go all the way to Penn Bay and down.
So an average Penn Bay transfer, depending on what you have for equipment, that type of thing, traffic, there's all sorts of factors, but you're looking at a whole, 2 more hours, a Miles transfer. When we leave Miles, we're down to Maine Med in just over an hour. Truck is back in our coverage area in 2. I can send a second truck out of Miles to do a second transfer if one comes in. We did it just last night. Had truck coming back from Miles, 7:30, 8 o'clock when they hit Wiscasset. I covered for a little bit. We sent another truck out the door and right to Damascola they went. And so we're able to just cover so much more volume more efficiently and effectively out of Miles. So, but again, just to be very clear in this group and to those listening online, if you're at Penn Bay and you live in Waldoboro or Jefferson, we will come get you and take you where you got to go. That's our commitment. So anybody have any questions on that?
So when they call in for a transfer, they tell you where the patient's from.
If it's Penn Bay, we ask. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
If it's after 6 p.m., we ask, actually, we've got them trained. Most of them trained over there now to say, hey, we're calling you because this person is a Waldeboro resident or Jefferson resident or whatever. So,
And our residents also know the app. A lot of our residents do app.
and anybody can request us and certainly is our goal that if Penn Bay calls and even if the person isn't from Waldeboro and they just like our service, please request us because we will make the effort to come over if you're requesting our services over another service. We certainly want to make people feel comfortable and appease them if we can. So,
is there a profile that typifies the kind of patient situation you're transferring? I mean, is it cardiac stuff?
so
Broken bones?
that's a great question. The short answer to that is, we run the gamut. And the reason why we run the gamut is because Miles is a critical access hospital. It's a terrible term, but Band-Aid station really is the term to use. They can only do so much, then they have to ship it somewhere else. They only have a certain number of beds, which is what gives them that classification of a critical access hospital in terms of inpatient beds. So they're a great hospital. They do fantastic work, but they're limited in what they can do. So we'll take someone down for cardiac's a big one. Certainly main med's the place they gotta be. But we'll take traumas we'll take traumas from Miles to Penn Bay because there's an ortho person on call at Penn Bay who can fix the bone and Miles couldn't. So, we
So
just
that
run the
speaks
gamut.
very highly of you guys, because you have an ability to handle a huge variety of cases.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's challenging. You know, Miles is really good. There are situations where they have to send us with some staff, a nurse, a respiratory therapist, those types of things. But we certainly, we have a very skilled group of providers that take it seriously and they're good at what they do. So,
You don't necessarily have to send a medic on every transfer.
nope, depends on what the orders are.
Order it.
Yep. Yep. I mean, the truth is, you know, when we have two paramedics on 24 hours a day, quite frankly, the calls, the crews just sort of split the calls. So, that paramedic may even drive to main med, because there's another one back here and it keeps that crew fresh and rested and able to respond. But yeah, you're right. It's all order dependent. So. Next. So this is that responses by town slide I talked about earlier. This covers again several calendar years. Waldeboro clearly stands out amongst the rest in terms of responses. These are all emergency responses. So again, this is all of our primary area. So Waldeboro, 2/3 of Jefferson, all of Friendship. So Waldeboro, as you can tell, we hover well over 800 calls a year right here in our very own town. So Jefferson was up significantly, as you can see, from 23 to 24. We did 200 calls in Jefferson, which means they were probably closer to 300 calls for the whole town, which is a very busy year for them. So Friendship stays pretty consistent, 120, 130 calls a year.
Out of all those calls, is there a percentage that are no transport?
Yes. Yep. That's a hard one to break down. I could break that down for you. We did, I had the number in front of me. The answer is yes. There's a significant amount of no transports.
You don't
And
get paid for
not right now. Not right now. So, if I respond mutual aid to Warren, because we have a good relationship with them, typically if it's something I wouldn't bill in Waldeboro, unless it's extenuating circumstances, like recently they had a truck that was coming back from Penn Bay and didn't cover a call for, I don't know what reason. It was no transport for us, but we still sent Warren a bill because our sources had to leave town and cover that call, so they'll get a bill for that. But yeah, currently we can't bill for no transports, so.
hopefully will change this year.
There is a lot of legislative talk that
Yeah.
hopefully that will change. And again, it's been a few years in the making and hopefully it changes to a point where if we provide a certain level of care, we can bill for it and sort of recoup some of those costs because there certainly is a cost associated with it. So.
And these emergency calls you're making, what percentage of those are accidents as opposed to medical?
So the large majority of our calls are medical in nature. Car accidents have significantly cut back over the years just because of safety improvements to vehicles. people aren't getting hurt in wrecks, which is good. We certainly have them. We certainly have those traumas and car accidents, but the vast majority of what we do is medical in nature.
Thank you.
So, sort of same material, just different towns. So, those are our primary. So Union encompasses Union, Washington, and Appleton. So we don't respond to Appleton like we used to. Early on, when we first signed mutual aid agreements, when I took over as chief with the Union, we were going there quite a lot. Union had one rescue. Appleton was a busy town. Their rescue would go out, we'd be going to Appleton. So, and then Warren is simply Warren. So as you can see, you know, we're in Warren over 200 times a year. So mutual aid keeps us. You know, it's funny that you asked that because that conversation comes up a lot, and Warren's call volume has increased significantly over the last 5 years, and it's not because of the prison. We're there. I mean, certainly go there. But it's really, it's calls outside the prison, right? And for Warren, what we're seeing a lot more of, is second calls. They're out, their one truck is out, they have one truck with one crew, and we're going over there because they're having a second call. When I go to Warren, when my crews go to Warren, we send Warren a bill and we send the patient's insurance a bill. So
Is that because we're all getting older?
no comment. You know, I'm not sure exactly what's going on in Warren. I'm not sure why that volume has spiked like it has. I don't think they have that answer either. But I think, you know, if I know their leadership at all, they're having the same conversations we're having. You know, why are we? Yeah.
Population is growing just like ours has, I'm sure.
Sure it has. Yep.
This is a good way to explain to our relationship with CLC. So we're not running 200 calls in CLC's area. We're running a handful of calls.
It's
and
like-
they're covering.
It's like 5.
Yeah, it's a lot
Yeah,
different than
yeah.
what we're doing with other communities. And back in the day, remember, we had mutual and mutual.
Yeah.
And- We're down to mutual now.
So this is a cool slide. This goes back to sort of that staffing charts we were showing you earlier. Focus your eyes on, so this is basically times out the door, like someone calls 911, Lincoln County Dispatch puts out a tone, and we're in the truck on the road. So that kind of bluish part of that pie chart, that's the longest interval of time. That's a 4 to 5 minute out the door time. In 2021, there's data in there that would show up if we put the mouse on it, but it was, you know, a large percentage of our time, getting out the door. And we've cut back on that significantly from 20 to 2024. And honestly, I can't speak to that enough in terms of that's life-saving time. That's not just a number on a pie chart. That is, we have 2 crews here 24 hours a day. Those trucks are out the door like that. I mean, that big part of the pie chart is 1 minute. Our trucks, and even at night, you know, they can probably hear me. You know, I'm always on them. Hey, out the door, out the door, out the door, right? We're just quick, and it's an absolute game changer for the citizens of this community. I can't speak to it enough. So
Extra crew room.
yeah, and the changes to the building have certainly, you know, it's a formula of things that have gone right for this department over the last several years that allow us to get out the door in such a timely manner. So
So when you bring an ambulance in from being out on a call,
Yep.
whether or a transfer.
Yep.
How long does it take your guys and women to get that vehicle ready to get out there again?
So that's a great question. It varies, right? Depends on the acuity of the call, depends on if we gotta go for fuel, right? Once that truck is back in town, we fuel up at Public Works. So they have to skip the 3 miles up to the town garage and 3 miles back. So that's, you know, that's 20 minutes right there, you know. safely in terms of actual physical minutes getting that truck back in service. 20 or 30, right? However, those trucks are set up so that we can run multiple calls back to back to back if we have to.
They've got supplies enough to do that.
100%. Yep. In the event something very high acuity happens, you might burn through a specialized piece of equipment, but more often than not, those trucks we do it all the time. There's a slide later on that will tell you how often we have all three trucks on the road at once. And those trucks are set up to do more than one call in a row. So, and a lot of times they do. One truck will leave the area to do a main med transfer. They're gone for 3.5 hours. And the other truck may run 3 or 4 calls in that time and never hit the station. So, and they're really good, hey, chief, if I'm in the office, hey, chief, we're out of IV supplies or whatever, and we'll shift trucks around, whatever, but they're set up to run, series of calls in a row. So there's not a lot of downtime. So this is kind of some fun facts for you folks to go over. Busiest between the hours of 4 and 5 p.m. By the way, this data all comes from our reporting system. So it took some time to dig deep into the belly of those systems to find these stats, but this is over the course of last year. Busiest day of the week is Monday. Thursday actually is a close second. That's the part I was talking about there, Bob. On 48 occasions last year, all 3 of our rigs were out at the same time. And that's again, not to dwell on it, but that speaks volumes to our staff. I'm in the office essentially as an extra person. So we only have to find one person during the day to come ride around with me if we have those 3 calls. That's huge. And that certainly has helped us in terms of revenue, but also just providing service to our citizens. We gave 3,807 milligrams of aspirin.
That baby aspirin?
It is 81 milligram baby aspirin for a total of 3,807 milligrams. We gave oxygen 270 times, 81 breathing treatments, and 94, as you'll learn later on, is our 2019 Demers ambulance. Was our busiest truck last year. It did 660 calls itself. So this gets into our fleet. This is so you know what we have and what we're working with. That's our brand new one. That was purchased. We took delivery of that in September.
The one you took out of Bangor?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. The value of purchase for that truck was $325,000. Again, much thank you to the support of, for the support of everybody on the budget committee and select board, but, even, on the latter parts of the state with the sustainability grant, we were able to, pay for the increased price without any cost to our taxpayer. Current mileage on the truck is 15,940. It's a Ford Type 1, and it features a power load, Striker power load systems. Everyone familiar with those? That's the busiest truck last year. That's 94. That's a 2019 value of purchase for that truck was $192,000. Again, that was 2019. You can see how significantly they've shot up in price over the last few years. That essentially, short of its age, is a twin to our newest one. It's a Type 1 Demers. The other one's a Demers as well, purchased from the same place. 152,000 miles on it. Features a power system as well, looking to replace it in 2030.
Does that have, and this is a leading question, I apologize for asking, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
A vehicle like that, I know they've got the Ford name on it.
Mhm.
And a lot of parts aren't manufactured in this country, they're manufactured overseas. That's gonna impact what we pay for these vehicles down the road.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
In talking to our public works department, one thing they appreciate about the purchasing of the same brand is that they can order parts sort of anticipating what's going to go awry, right? So we can actually stock some parts. We can order them saying, hey, look, we're going to need brake pads. We're going to need those types of things, and so where they're the same truck, they're the same size, similar in age, they can kind of order some of those parts and have them, you know, which again, the whole conversation of Public Works doing our work is a whole separate one, but needless to say, it's working fantastically. So that's our oldest truck in the fleet. That's a Chevy G4500. That's actually a remount. So that's why the value of purchasing that truck is so low comparatively. You know, 111,575 does not have a power load system, and that truck's replacement, if everything goes as planned, should be here in August of this year. That truck's getting tired.
Have they told you there were gonna be delays until August or?
No,
is it
so
on
that's
schedule?
actually on schedule.
It's on schedule.
Yep. Well, that's the first truck we ordered from Professional Vehicle. And we canceled the second one in lieu of that other truck. And so it's on schedule, but it's also 3 years in the making.
Right.
So that truck, you know, back to what I was saying about it, it's getting tired, much like its twin did, to us over the last couple of years. That one, I'm afraid, is gonna start doing the same thing in terms of kind of nickel and diming us for.
Do the truck bodies, do they age at the same rate that the vehicle itself does?
Yeah, I mean,
Because you could buy a cabin chassis and
right,
take that.
Yeah.
Chassis and,
remount a box on it.
Remount a
Yeah,
box,
I
yeah.
think, you know, again, we talk remounts quite often in the EMS industry now. The truth is, it's my opinion that, here in Maine, the remounts, the amount of money that you spend on a remount, you should invest in a brand new unit because, the salt and the sand and the grime, it's hard on everything. And the wear and tear on a box in Maine is not the wear and tear on a box in Texas. And we see it. I mean, our guys start working on these trucks and they're like, yeah, it's rusted out. It's corroded, it's rusted out. And so, it's my opinion that out with the old, in with the new. Truck, chassis, body, the whole thing goes, the new one comes in, because by the time you spend money cosmetically on these rigs, you may as well have paid for a new one, here in Maine. And that's kind of the industry, discussion around here. You know, the other chiefs, we all talk, yeah, you're gonna remount? No, we're not gonna remount because trucks are just in hard shape. You know, we take good care of them here. We clean them, we wash them. You know, Public Works does a fantastic job. Hillside before them did a fantastic job, but in terms of how they hold up on the weather side, it's just not worth it. So. Last but not least, this is the fly car. Currently it's assigned to me. It goes with me. It is stocked with the ALS equipment in it, a cardiac monitor. Doesn't have any medications on it because I don't want them to freeze. But short of that, I can do anything out of that car I need to while I wait for another ambulance to show up or anything like that. We purchased that from the police department. It's 2015. It's got 118,000 and change miles on it. It's low priority on replacement. If it breaks down, we just won't use it for a while, but it's certainly, having a vehicle is certainly a benefit, especially when we're going to, I take it to Warren quite often during the day, but like getting from A to B for meetings and that sort of thing, it's fantastic. So.
Sorry, touch something.
Anybody have any questions on the fleet that haven't been asked yet? Obviously, it's kind of the meat and potatoes of
We had
You know,
2 on order.
one.
One.
And the next one comes in 2930
That's the goal.
replacement.
That's the goal. Yep. I'm anxious to get the new one in service so that we can have a full 3-truck rotation again. Right now, I'm running the oldest truck in the fleet, that Chevy that was shown just prior to the fly car. I'm running that for transfers only and third calls because the crews have become frankly accustomed to the power load systems for 911 calls. They're a back saver. They're great. But also I just kind of want to be on the truck going long distance because it's good for that. And it saves the miles on the other trucks. So once we have that other truck, we'll have a full rotation again and they'll do something different every month. So yeah, so when we're not running EMS calls, there's a little humor at the bottom. We drink a lot of coffee. It's pretty well nonstop, but we've been providing standby coverage at the high school for sporting events. We provide CPR training, AED training. And, you know, we help around here, right? Thanksgiving baskets, Christmas baskets, our team loves to be involved in that sort of stuff, so. Next. So this is where we get into some of the budget talk. I'm trying not to keep you much longer, for this part of the presentation, but this is budgeted expense and revenue. This is obviously fiscal year as opposed to calendar year. That's again, budgeted, fiscal year 25, 24, and 23. So as you can see, it's our goal to offset the operations side with the revenue side. We're careful to anticipate those things because we just don't know how it's gonna go. But yeah, so that's obviously in terms of millions when you get up in the red on the operations side. Anybody have any questions on the budgeted slide?
Are the deficits, the differences between revenues and expenses largely attributable to one not getting paid for no truck?
Oh, yeah,
That's gotta be a huge part of it.
Well,
there's also,
and-
yeah,
And just the reimbursement rates that we're getting from some of these insurance companies are.
was gonna be what I was actually gonna say, is there's a fair amount of what they call uncollectibles, and we're fighting that battle. I mean, I just completed a massive, thanks, PEG and the billing company for their help, Medicare cost reporting project that hopefully by and large is being done by everybody. It's a legal thing. Interestingly enough, there's no promises it's going to increase Medicare reimbursement, but they did promise us that if we didn't do it, they were going to dock us. So that's been completed. No worries of that. But
400,000,
it's our, Yeah.
400,000.
Yeah.
So if we were paid for everything we did, you'd see 400,000 more.
and again, just to bring this, the next slide sort of shows the actuals over the last few years. Again, not a perfect science, but this is data from our Trio system provided to me, put into a chart. Obviously fiscal year 25 we're currently in that fiscal year. I looked today, our revenues look decent for fiscal year 25, which is good. But yeah, so I mean, you can see basically, we sort of, by and large, kind of live up to what we sort of anticipate. I should have put them side by side, but certainly, we are providing a great service and trying our best to offset the cost of the taxpayer while we do it. Again, we operate in a non-perfect world where there just is this, amount of uncollectible that we're just always fighting an uphill battle. So, and we're going to provide the service, service first and billing later. But so yeah, a little more of my discussion. We did secure over $80,000 in grants last year. Max was a huge help to me with that. So yeah, that's a story on that. That really helped us. We're in the congressional direct spending. I talked to Max today. We made it to what he basically said. We made it through the first two loops, and now he doesn't feel so hopeful that we're going to get approved. We put in for an ambulance. It would have literally covered the cost of the ambulance, had we gotten it. And they haven't said no yet, but Max is feeling not so hopeful anymore. But just so you guys know, we did certainly put the effort in. Max came into my office last year sometime and said, "What do you want to put in for?" I said, "Will they buy us an ambulance?" He said, "We'll try." And we got letters of support from the hospitals and the neighboring mutual aid agencies. And it was really the emails. I mean, we were a little giddy at first because, yeah, so.
And part of the not giddiness is just because of the amount of emails we're getting about any type of federal spending right now is all tempered, so. There still could be giddiness, you know,
But I mean, the ball was rolling really fast down.
but the good
yeah.
thing is, the really good thing is that we already budgeted for it, so if we get the grant. We're good.
Yeah, we went into it with the mindset of, you know,
Budget it,
budget it because, you know, there's a chance we won't get it. And again, you know, any sort of political stance aside, we put the effort in and, certainly got a lot of really good feedback and we were hopeful. And, you know, they haven't said no yet, but we're not so sure they're gonna say yes. So, but it was a good shot.
So
Good
this
job.
is congressionally directed
yeah,
Spending,
allocations.
correct.
I'm guessing we go through the offices of Pingree.
Yep.
Bill-
Yeah, I can't remember who sent us the official.
and.
Yeah,
Actually, I think this was Collins.
Collins.
yes, yeah. And Maine Health sent a very nice letter saying, you know, Waldeboro is a pristine service that provides a very necessary service out of our entity, like for transfers down to Maine Med and that sort of thing. And yeah, we got 2 or 3 emails and we were like, whoa, you know, and then obviously things happen. So, but
We're not giving them hope.
right, again, so just a piece at the end here, special thanks to the town select board budget committee and our interlocal agreement, Jefferson Friendship, for their continued support of the operation. Yep, I'm good. It's a long ways away. Anyways, that's the team on the right there. That was at Jim Meaton's retirement gathering we had this summer. For those of you that don't know Jim served 47 years on the ambulance service here in Waldeboro. Very dedicated. I mean, right up until the very end, he was working 30+ hours a week. We had to kind of tell him to stop. So, yeah, here in a public setting, a very special thank you to Jim for his years of service to this department. We certainly could not have done it without him. So. I think there's a little video there on that. Yeah,
Oh, you did a video?
that's just us leaving the barn.
Sit down across the street just waiting.
No, actually, someone else, I found this on YouTube. So
You get the old ambulance.
that's the old ambulance. That's right. Yeah. Wave goodbye, because come July, hopefully. Yeah.
Not be very helpful.
We always make it work.
To do.
We didn't know what to do. We got scared.
Pull over.
Anybody have any questions?
That was a great presentation.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me and taking the time to listen to me. Who's going?
Max, get rid of the.
We already played it once, Max. You can exit out.
Take comments from the.
Yeah, I'll take comment from audience on it.
Well, I,
Save the EMS.
yeah, it does, because if I don't get it, you're probably gonna fail as soon as you go. But I was gonna make this during public comment. Derek, I've seen his crew in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and they've done a superb job. And you all should be proud of this young man right there.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Billy. Thank you very much. All set with me?
I also want to thank Pete Booker because I had to use the Circum a year ago. Caught a ride back from Jefferson after a kid blew my car out. So appreciate.
You're very welcome. Anytime. Anybody have anything else? We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Well, I was say next is citizen comments. Any more citizen comments? Ben?
For anyone who wants to field it, it's something that gets asked all the time, are we still on schedule for a groundbreaking for the top of the hill? Or don't we know anything, or is it still, because it's winter, we haven't done anything, I don't know.
Brian's sites was actually out after Mike made the request, so I don't have an update, but we will try and have something, and a report, next select board.
Yeah, that came up in the last meeting, Ben,
Great,
actually, because that's everyone's antsy on that, so.
Sure, no, I get it. It's all about it.
The problem that I said last time, that I was listening on YouTube about the ambulance. Everything is up in the air with federal funding, and that's kind of what DOA was going to be using for some of this, so.
No. Vacant lot, here we go.
Yeah. Let's see, select board comments. Peggy, anything?
Not much, I would just say thanks to the Public Works. We've had some back-to-back storms here and,
Work hard.
got a couple more on the horizon by the looks of the weather, so I think they're doing a great job.
I'd like to echo that, particularly on Flanders Corner Road. We had a resident come in and complain, and Public Works came down with a lot of gravel, and the road is immensely better than it used to be.
Well, that goes 3 times. Guys have been out there working hard, and they're gonna be working hard this week too, so.
And I actually wrote it down, I was gonna say the same thing. So I guess we're all thinking the same thing.
Where's
And even the
where's
sidewalks,
John?
like, we-
Like coffee.
Where's
Sleeping,
John?
sleeping.
Resting up.
They're all sleeping.
we had, even I noticed yesterday, the sidewalks, everything was looking good already, so.
Yeah,
Good.
that's the only thing I was gonna add is that people just have to be patient. Sorry.
I was gonna say, the sidewalks, we can't jump on those right away.
Right,
Yeah,
thank
the
you.
roads.
Also, I just have a card here that I meant to read last. This is from the food pantry. Thank you so much for donating the remainder of the Christmas basket food to the pantry. It was much appreciated. At the following distribution, and we service 200 households, 542 individuals. Knew it's a new record for them. Continue to be grateful to the town and your ongoing support. On behalf of the Waldeboro Food Pantry, Lynn Blackoff.
I will echo, we've gotten a lot of wonderful comments about Public Works, because it has been a rough couple of weeks, and it looks like it's not gonna be much better. Sunday looks like to be like the biggest storm. Sunday into Monday, we hate 2-day storms, but, they'll get through. We did have a question about the ramp at Dutch Neck Landing. We do not plow the ramp at Dutch Neck. We plow everything but the ramp. Apparently that was tried years ago and it did not end up well. So we do not plow the ramp out. We plow everything but the ramps. So that is something that we'll have to maybe come up with a different way of doing. I'm not sure what that would be, but, I asked today because we had a couple of questions on Facebook about if the landing could actually be plowed out and
So the actual ramp,
The
not
actual ramp.
We are plowing the
we're
landing,
playing
the parking
the
area.
parking area and the entrance to the landing, but the actual ramp itself. Apparently years ago it was tried and it didn't go well and the tide came up. So it just I just don't know how to get it open. John said that they haven't done it they did it one time in his career and he's at 47 years. So I guess in the past, somebody else has done it, like maybe some of the diggers did it themselves, or it's been a while since we've had this much snow piling up, so it could be that.
Mhm.
Or anything freezing. That's all I have.
Okay, let's see, motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? New business, we have a letter from the DMR, right?
This is our annual letter to retain our rights to harvest river herring, also known as alewives, and blueback herring.
I move that we authorize our town manager to send that letter.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor? Catch them fish. 10.2 Capital Improvement Program.
You wouldn't mind taking one down and passing it around? This is something new that I came up with. This is a little taste of our capital improvement program. and I thought I could include this in the budget book this year. It is not the big sheet. It is only a 5-year snapshot of what we're expecting to have happen in the next few years, but it gives a little explanation of what we're doing. And I just thought it might be useful for the budget committee and for you just to have a little overview of what we're planning in the capital program for this year and into the future.
Like this,
I love it a lot. Really cool.
makes it really review.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's different. It gives you a little brief explanation and I'm not done with it quite yet, but we're getting there. But I just thought it was useful. And I wanted your okey dokey to put it into the book.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and, you know,
Cause it's, I'm gonna be honest with you, I know Val loves his big sheet of Val. And that goes out to 2040, but it's getting really hard to figure out what a fire truck's gonna cost in 2040. It's getting hard to figure out what a police cruiser is gonna be in the next couple of years.
this would almost be worth it to put it on the town website, you
Mhm.
know, or maybe a condensed version or something.
I think this is,
Yeah.
this, to me, I thought it would be really good, and I also attached, Peg suggested we attach the capitalization policy. If there's anything else you wanna see in there, if you can look at it and tell me what it is, just email me or call me and say, hey, you know what else I'd like to see in here? That would be great. And we have a lot of new members on the budget committee this year, so I thought this would be helpful for them.
The only suggestion I'd have, and I don't even know if it's reasonable, let's put it out there. A lot of this stuff that we buy is really long-term. I mean, those fire trucks will last 40 years.
Mhm.
And you're right, we have no idea what they're gonna cost 40 years from now. But we're assuming a certain cost and putting the numbers in there. And if possible, it might be helpful to put a percentage column on some of these charts that show the amount we're accruing as a percent of the estimated total required. So instead of having 40-year columns out there, you can get by with 5, but indicating that maybe the last column, what percentage we think we'll be at in terms of accruing the money we need to, building up the reserves we need to buy the stuff.
So like in Public Works.
Yep,
We've saved 155,000 for a 2024 international wheeler. How much is that percentage? We've
Yes.
got 83% saved. Okay,
there you go, yeah.
all right.
Baby,
Well, these,
What was that?
baby wheeler.
A baby
A baby
wheeler.
wheeler.
Could I not make it what is it called? John, what's the technical term? Because that's what I call it. That's what I've been conditioned to
Well,
call
you
it
got
here.
10-wheeler and you get 6, that's.
So 10-wheeler and a 6-wheeler, okay.
Thank you. I didn't know either. How many years?
That's like my truck, triax.
these are scheduled expenses, but there is nothing about any accruals at the start.
How much you've reserved already?
How much is in the budget for these?
Okay, you would like that too. So I didn't do away with the big sheet either.
Okay,
So you'll also get the big sheet. You just,
Mhm.
this was an easier thing to handle. I can do that. So you want 2 columns added, the reserve at the beginning and then where we're at percentage. Okay. I can make that happen. And I will change it from baby wheeler.
Right, they want to be called baby wheeler, that's fine, I'm sure. I drive a baby wheeler.
I'm sure they don't, but that's what I've been told they're called, baby wheeler. So, and what would your wheeler be called? A triaxle?
Triaxle,
So it's a double axle and a single axle too, is another way of saying it.
yeah, you could say that, single axle wheeler, but it's got 6 wheels.
I'm gonna call it a 6-wheeler and a 10-wheeler. No more baby wheeler for us.
I obviously haven't had a chance to read the text, but is there anything about where this money is kept in interest-bearing accounts or whatever? Is there anything like that in there?
Nope, I can put that in there. I just assumed that everybody
Assume
Expect
that
us-
to be the case, but
would expect us to put
Yeah.
it in interest-bearing accounts.
Anything else on that? We'll look forward to seeing how
That's
it's
a great
received
idea.
with the budget committee.
I thought it would. It's good. Good thing.
10.3 warrant discussion.
Hi, guys. Is there anything that you would like to have on the warrant? Because
I started it today, actually.
In June?
in June, because
Talking not budget related, but.
not budget related, I'm saying, is there anything on the warrant that you guys want on the warrant? Because if it is, we have to start working on it now, because you've got February into March to where we could have public hearings and things like that, or are there questions? This is just, you don't have to come up with them tonight, but we have to start thinking about it, because I don't want everybody thinking the end of March, oh, I had a really good idea for a warrant question, and then it's too late to get it on the warrant. So I think if there's things that you want the pulse of the town, whether you want,
I think the deadline is April 14th, like.
I think we need a warrant article for whether or not the school continues to hold that hearing right before the.
so that has to go, that's something that the school puts on.
Okay.
Not us.
Cause I think we need that. Just based on. How things have happened with their budget in the last couple of cycles.
I,
And I think it might be the year that it is on.
I think it is, cause it's every other year it has to be put on there, I guess, so it's probably happening anyway.
It's put on their,
Put on there, but their warrant.
on their,
It's their
Their
warrant that
public
they're
hearing.
gonna submit
right,
that will
Are you
go.
talking a dollar figure?
Well. Every other year, the town has to decide whether or not they're going to continue to hold the public hearing that they hold. For passing the budget with the show of hands. And then that is put forward. And because they have to do it that way, you cannot put a dollar amount on the. On the actual warrant, because that meeting has to happen at such a late stage that the warrant has already been submitted for printing. Right?
Yep.
This is my understanding.
Yep.
So as a result. Taxpayers can't really know necessarily if they haven't done their homework, what that number is supposed to be, and that number can be changed at that show of hands meeting. And then. People feel like this information has been presented to them because everything that was in print. Was the number that it was intended, but it can be changed at that show of hands meeting with, 70 or 80 people maximum.
I don't know how it works when it includes 5 towns. But I can look into it.
You say it's done every other year?
Yeah.
Every other
There's
year,
a
they have to
question.
they have to vote on whether or not to keep the process and keep that little public. Show of hands meeting that usually happens at
They
the middle
being
school or the
school.
high school. The school board
Yeah,
has
the
to do
school
that.
does that.
But they have to put it on the warrant, and then each town would vote whether they want it or not. It would remove the meeting.
It would remove that meeting, so, that meeting. Isn't terribly binding until it comes to all 5 towns to be
Right.
voted on anyway, but as a result of having that meeting in the schedule, they cannot put a dollar amount on a warrant. So people are unaware. And, if we want maximum transparency. Then understanding what those numbers are about
We'll have
is
to figure that out.
useful.
Yeah. We can do some research for you.
Thanks. I don't mind going to a meeting. A school board meeting either, and just saying, hey, we know this is the year that's going to be on there. It's really important that people understand what that means
In all the towns.
in all the towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the last couple of meetings they've been canceled. I know it was canceled last
Well-
Thursday, and one tomorrow night gonna be
Yeah.
canceled. Not Thursday, no, Thursday night.
Yeah, so
well-
it's just a matter of. I think they've run into some challenges
Yeah.
getting their budget passed, and. The more transparent you can be, the more. Voters can step up and be informed as opposed to. Feel like they're not informed, so they don't know which way to go.
So if you have any other warrant articles, now's the time to start thinking about them.
Anything else on that? Old business. 11.1, 405 Friendship Road discussion, formerly known as the Sylvania site. Reason I asked to have this put on the on the agenda, I thought it'd be a good idea for us to, as select board, to talk a little bit about that project. I know we have a Sylvania committee, redevelopment committee, I guess the official name of it. And I watched the, and you folks, you get two of you guys are on the board and, or on the committees and I think it's time to see some motion in that committee. I guess my thought is, let's change the name at least. Because it's not Sylvania anymore.
No, it's not.
Let's get a name going. What's it gonna take to get a name? I know that there's been some names floated through a survey.
Mhm.
And there was 4 names, if I remember correctly, 4 names that were the top 4 priorities. And what's it gonna take for us to pick a name on that so we can actually maybe start talking about, instead of calling it the Sylvania Park. And there's a lot of hesitance in the community with it being down there because of the rumors of what's under the ground there, but I think we need to start seeing some motion, some movement. Every meeting, it seems like Groundhog Day, they're talking about the name again, they're talking about this again, so where are we going with this committee? And at some point, is this committee gonna meld with the recreation committee, because that is actually gonna be a recreation facility?
Marcus has been coming to the meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
but he's also has a committee, recreation committee, have they been involved in this? It's gonna be more of a,
Jim Letney
and
is,
Jim's on it too. as well.
Jim is the recreation committee. He's one of the people that you put on.
And I certainly appreciate the hard work that these folks have done, because they've done a lot of research. And how long we've been dealing with we've owned Sylvania for how long now?
It'll be 3 years. In
3 or 4 years.
3 years, I believe, in the summer. The 4 names that after the Waldeboro Historical Society went through, that I got feedback on from the board were Madomic River Community Park, Waldeboro Community Park, East Bank Park, and Colonial Park and Recreation. So those are the 4 that you narrowed it down to. I can take it, if you wanted this kids to vote on it, I can ask Julia Levenseller again, if we could come over, maybe do an assembly. John suggested an assembly and have the kids cast their ballots there. And pick a name. Or you guys could just pick one out of those 4.
We were gonna do this back on November 5th. And it
We
fell
were,
apart.
but the person I was dealing with never got back to us on
Okay.
that. That was part of the issue.
And part of the process was to get the school involved so there'd be some excitement generated. And I know one of the things the committee talked about at its last meeting was, well, how do we do this now? And there were some who felt we should go back to the school and see if they'll vote. I don't remember that we had a definitive
I don't
result of
remember
the
having a,
conversation.
I don't think we ever put it to a vote.
No, we didn't.
No.
And that's one of my
And then the other
concerns here,
one
was
was-
that's like, there's no forward motion,
Select
let's
board
let's
doing
make a
it.
decision and do it. Even if it's just a matter of this development committee and the select boards, just us voting on it. If the school, I mean, obviously, we gave the school a chance to do it, and I think it'd be a great idea to have the kids involved. We'll give them one more shot, but by, let's say,
Okay.
April 1st, if they don't have a decision, I mean, we
So-
have to do it. We have to start doing something, showing the community that we are doing something with that park.
Would it be okay if we don't go the school vote route because for whatever reason, to ask the committee to make a recommendation of the select board to get a sense of how the committee feels about the name? And then make the decision here.
Yeah, or between those, how many folks are on that committee? 8, 10, whatever it is. You know, everyone put in their vote and we put in our 5 votes, and then we take out of those top
Whatever
4,
works. Yep.
out of those top 4.
I will call Julia tomorrow and see if they can get me something before April 1st.
And I say April 1st because that's because the Sylvania committee will meet again. And then after that name's picked, then maybe we can call it something other than the Sylvania Development Committee. We call it the whatever park committee.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Board motion. That's just my thought. Don't you guys agree with me or not?
Well, I will say,
And you guys have been going to the meetings on a regular basis?
I will say there's been a lot of churn in the committee, and as the personnel on this committee have changed, the the concepts
Right,
have changed quite a bit. When I've been on this committee, I don't know, even before it was the redevelopment committee. And, I went into it looking at a very, low intensity uses, and that has changed quite dramatically. With, the need to, maintain the land and water conservation grants, because the old tennis courts were taken out when,
Right.
AD Gray was demolished. So that meant we had to put active recreation on that site. And, more recently, the food pantry has expressed an interest, which,
The
That's-
committee did seem to support.
Mhm.
and I think we were all in support of that. Other individuals have expressed a desire for very creative playground ideas, which we've all been, I think most of us have been very supportive of that idea too. So it's been a challenge to put ideas on paper that we can put forward to the public and have everybody not in agreement and say, this is what we want the town to do. I guess I'll leave it at that. It's been a challenge, especially,
you're right, you had-
especially with the churn.
you've had some turnover and some different people coming in and out of the committee. Every time someone new comes, they have a different idea.
And we have to,
It's rein that in a little.
and then
bit.
we have to retell the story.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Max and I've been there from the beginning. You are right, sometimes it does get a little Groundhog Day-esque. But I think we're to the point now where we have the concept plan that might need some tweaking. And it's about making sure everybody knows it's going on and what's going on. So I will, at the next meeting, I will have a report for you on the school.
Is the survey still out there?
Surveys out there.
Okay, so I mean, we've gotten what, 239 responses to this survey in a town of 5,000 people. I had hoped that we'd get a better response to that survey. It's on the website. So I encourage people to go there and find it and respond.
No,
I mean,
I-
it's hard to be a committee and go forward with things when you don't really have a concrete idea of where people
But
want to
that
do.
gives you a sense of, okay, we're putting the survey out there, we're advertising, it, we're publicizing it, and if they're not doing it, they don't care. But I mean, I hate to say it, but they're gonna use it, people will use it if
Point
it's there. We could wait for the next 10 years to get all the surveys filled up, but let's see something get done with that place. Like the house.
We're waiting on funding for that.
Yep, funding round is starting up.
Yeah.
And there's also the technical assistance one that Susan brought up at the meeting.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah,
wanna
she was
jump in
gonna do
unless
some
you're
work on that.
Still talking
Yeah.
about your product unless, I just need a motion of it later, but I don't want to interrupt if you guys would tell anything else.
Oh, I think that was my point on that, so now we'll get some answers and we get this thing moving forward.
So Susan brought up a grant opportunity through the National Park Service that has a application due March 1st. We are ideal to apply for it, so if I could get the motion to submit it.
Susan,
I,
Tobowski, who's on the
Susan
Sylvania.
Jablowski, yeah, she's the one who's done a lot of the playground
oh, okay,
research. Really great ideas.
There's a national park grant.
But this would be for a landscape architect
Yeah.
and a project manager.
Yeah.
And you get a grant, what, $80,000?
I believe it was just getting to technical assistance. and
It's
just-
Yeah, I mean, it's
We don't
money
have
we
to
wouldn't
provide
have
that.
to spend
right.
to get this assistance.
They provide their people to
Yeah,
help us.
and she's pretty sure. I mean, she's very positive about possibilities for that grant. So I would make the motion.
I met with the manager for Maine.
There you go.
And she, with Susan and Michael and Nico, and she seemed she encouraged us to apply.
So I would move that we have the town apply to that, for that grant.
Second.
Any more discussion? Grant would look better if it had a name on it, other than the Sylvania.
Northern Border, is that it? Or is that a different?
No, I'm talking about the name of the park.
Oh.
Yeah, you're right.
Northern Border is just as good as any other.
I say we still name it Max.
All in favor?
Max Johnston Memorial.
All in favor of Max to cement the grant?
Yeah, just the Max part.
No, but that's the irony behind it.
All in favor of Max to cement the grant?
Are you suggesting that's when it will be done?
Okay, agenda items for the next meeting.
Update on the name of the park. I should have the updated draft of the traffic ordinance for
Then
you
what-
guys to look at.
Look
And
at
then you can set the,
public hearing.
yeah, which I believe will be the second meeting in March. Cause that's when we're gonna advertise it for.
Already done.
Done. Look at her. She's amazing.
Anything else? You think
Will
of?
be,
How did they, CDBG public here? Or, North Country?
okay. CDBG hearing for North Country Wind Bells.
Public hearing.
Put the ads in the paper and everything.
Good job.
We will be getting ready for our budget, so life will be good.
I'd like to commend our town clerk. I got a sneak preview of that book about the community service requests, and it's awesome.
I couldn't have done it without you, Paul.
Well, no, you did the presentation is fantastic.
Will the budget books be available when?
When it said in the memo that I don't remember, probably next week, I think I said it was gonna be ready. It's gonna be ready. We're gonna do our very best. Should be ready to go by next week. That's why it's important that you give me your feedback.
Good reading material from my travel.
It probably won't be ready before you leave.
Drive carefully.
Get a motion to adjourn?